Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Indie Creative Comics Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
Dude, it's really hard to not say Phil.
I
You
know.
know, I
I
have to
always that hitch. I know.
it's like I have that brain, like fog right before I say it, and there's like a little delay.
It's hard for me to hear it sometimes too, from coming from certain people. Like a month ago in the store, Len just in the middle of the day called me John,
Oh,
and
really?
it rattled me. It rattled me. I was confused. It just was so weird. And
Was
he felt
John
weird
in the
about it,
store?
too. No, not even. No.
Wow,
No.
that's yeah.
I know.
It's in. I'm trying to get. Well, I'm not in the store anymore, really. So when you guys are there, so it's starting to get a little bit, I guess, normalized in my brain. But
It's
staying it
it's
for so long, it just I
it's
don't know.
sometimes every now and then it's still like Charles Barkley's golf swing with that hitch.
Yes. All right. For those of you guys that don't understand what we're talking about, for a long time I was at the Joker Shop. I'm still there, but not in the same capacity that I used to be. And John was at the store as well for a long time, and we worked together for a long time. And because there was already another John that preceded him, he needed to change his name because it's like SAG. There can only be one of a name in the store, or else it gets really convoluted and complicated. So John decided to take on the moniker of Phil after his dad and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And after years of calling John Phil, it feels dirty to call him anything else other than Phil. So that's why every now and then I have that little pause.
And
So yes.
we did it for a while. We kind of kept it that way, especially when we were audio only.
Yes.
And then shortly after we started to go to YouTube, I think we decided let's just go with my real name. To avoid some confusion with my dad, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just, but yeah, it's funny. So yeah, that's all archived. That's all out there, right? People can listen to the chronicle of the evolution of the name. And
it is. And if we had any sports fans on and stuff like that, they'd be like, "That's not Phil Pepe. Get the hell out of here." But yes, it was a good tribute for a while, and it only made sense. And the only person that really had a problem with it was me because it's my brain. I just can't switch it off sometimes. So, yeah. But it's all good. But yeah, that's our little rant in the very beginning and understanding. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Indie Creative Comics podcast. This is if you're new to the show, welcome. This is where John and I get together every week and just try to support any small press, indie creator owned. I got some Kickstarter projects as well that I'll be talking about. Not this week because I'm reading up on them next week. So this is where we try to highlight sort of the small guys and give them a platform to be heard and maybe share the love of this medium that we love so much, the comic medium. So like every week we do have some books for you this week. Pretty exciting week actually, because I got a book that came back that was continuing that I didn't know was continuing, which is great. And then it's always good to have the same creative team on it because you know what you're going to get. And then picked up a new imprint today that I'm excited to talk about as well. But before we get there, we're just going to do a couple of announcements really quickly and then head right into our reviews. One of the things I want to point out is, officially we're going to launch in November. So Project Shadow Breed, the reboots, really excited about this. Super fantastic black and white comic. I love black and white comics. I don't know what it is about them, but if you do them really well, that style is just lends to just really good storytelling and the type of story that we're telling with Project Shadow Breed and sort of like this horror and heroic, genre mixed in together. It seems to work really well off of that. So there's the QR code on the screen. If you're really savvy with your phone camera there, you can go right to it, or you can just go to projectshadowbreed.com and that will take you to the pre-launch page for the Kickstarter that we've got going on. You can just sign up and get notified when it does go live. So yeah, check that out. Also, what else do we have going on? Oh, we have a couple of guests coming on over the next couple of weeks, so make sure you look out. We have Dennis Robinson coming back on, continuing his story of Lycan. This is Solomon's Odyssey. We spoke about this, I think, months ago, right?
Probably about a year or so ago. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a while ago. He's kicked it up and he's continuing the story. I think it's up to issue 4, if I'm not mistaken. So he has a Kickstarter that's launching in November as well. So you get 2 doses of werewolves in the month of November, which is fantastic. But yeah, he also has the other issues that will be available on his Kickstarter as well. It's a really nifty story. So if you want to, you can go and check it out. I have a QR code up there as well. For him, you can go to Lycan Book, LYCAN book.com, and that will take you to the pre-launch of his page. And I believe he's launching in November as well. But we're probably going to have him on, I think, just beforehand. So yeah, look out for that. That's going to be pretty cool. And then last but not least, we're going to have Benjamin Dean on as well. He runs a website called The Point of Clicking. And what's really cool about what he does is that he actually reviews Kickstarter projects. So, I mean, if you do want to talk about the indie and creator-owned stuff, these are, projects that he reads that are off of Kickstarter, and he has a whole site dedicated to reviewing those books. So you can actually go over to thepointofclicking.com and check out some of the stuff. But we're really excited to have him on and talk about, the stuff that he's doing and the stuff that he's seen and where that market is going and stuff like that. So, yeah, look out for that stuff. It's pretty cool. I kind of it's such a different angle of what we do. We're constantly just reading stuff that we get, from the direct market. And the crowdfunding space is such a different and unique space, but it's such a big space and a big platform that independent creators can utilize, especially if they have, the ones that I find that are most successful are the ones that create a following for themselves on social media, and then bring them over to the platform so they can go ahead and get successfully funded. Because it's always a gamble, and it always sucks when it doesn't get funded. But I think the legwork needs to be done first in order to have people find you first, follow your work, and then appreciate your work, and then be able to say, okay, hey guys, give me money now because you like my stuff and I want to get it into your hands.
I like the idea that there's somebody out there who's checking these Kickstarter projects out for people who might be interested in checking something out, right? And that that he's reviewing the stuff and being like, yeah, this is worthy of supporting. Give that an option. I think it's a very, very cool service that he's providing there. I really like that. You know what else I like, Angel? I like this podcast too. I think this is a good thing.
This is a nifty one. I like it too. That's why I come back every Monday.
If you're watching this podcast, you should like it. There's a little button that says like. You should subscribe too.
Absolutely.
I don't have to subscribe because I do this podcast. I don't need to be reminded of it. But yeah, folks, I would, because that way you get to see our reviews. You get those alerts on however that whole subscription thing works. Plus you get alerts and when we're doing these interviews, because these interviews, I love doing these interviews. These are so much fun with these guys.
Yeah, they are. We get to meet a lot of lifty people. The other thing that's really cool, just because I've been lately supporting a lot of Kickstarters online. Well, on Kickstarter. And I never even thought about reviewing any of those books or just, saying what I'm reading. So I think I am going to do that. I have like 2 that I just got in that I'm going to be taking a look at. And yeah, so I'll give it a look-see-loo, and then maybe next week just give them a shout out. Because I think there's so much stuff out there. It's just crazy. And there's so many hidden gems. And there's so many people that are really talented. There's so many great stories that just never see sort of like the light of day because they're buried underneath so much content. And there's not a lot of people that do what we do, which is try to find those hidden gems and just try to kind of bring them out to the world. So yes, this is what's going to get me into heaven, is doing this stuff. So it's all good. But yeah, check those guys out over the next couple of weeks. They're going to be on the podcast. And then definitely check out our Kickstarter, which is going to be going live. And that's like weeks away, November. Like we have Halloween next. Like we're coming into holiday season, and then it's a brand new year. As soon as Halloween comes and goes, that's it. That's the end of the year.
I saw something a few months ago that was really resonated. Really, I thought really was perfectly phrased. I will butcher it right now, but basically the concept was that 8 p.m. Thursday and October all have the same vibe.
8 p.m. Thursday.
Well, 8 p.m. in and of itself every day.
Every day.
Thursday every week. And October every year. All have the same vibe.
The same vibe.
Right?
Yes. I would agree with that.
It's like,
I
oh,
would
it's 8
agree with
p.m.
that.
The day's almost over. Oh, it's Thursday. The week's almost over. Oh, it's
Oh, it's
October. The
October.
year's almost over.
It's insane, man.
Yep.
This year it's just went by so quick. Wait, what is I think if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am, but New York Comic Con is
This a
this
week from
weekend,
now.
next weekend.
Or it's this
Yeah,
week. It's this weekend. Yeah.
yeah, October 9th through the 12th. Holy crap! Yeah, I just didn't be able to get tickets in time and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, if you're around in the city, yeah, check it out. See what's going on over there. There's a bunch of, I think Ignition Press, who you're going to talk about later on, is going to be there for the first time at New York Comic Con. They're going to have some pretty cool stuff there. It's just really cool to see. Like, I mean, they've got some talent on. Like, Colin Bunn is doing stuff for them. There's a bunch of other, names that are on there, but they're still considered a small press. Even though they got some names behind them, so you might want to check them out. It's huge every year. I remember the last time I was in Comic Con, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm just like, I'm getting too old for these crowds and whatnot. Even though I love spending so much time in like the artist alley and stuff, it's just too big for its bridges and stuff. But yeah, if you're around this weekend, yeah, go check them out. It should be fun. It's always a good time. Okay, cool. Let's dive into the reviews. We have a couple of books for you today. John, why don't we have you start?
Yeah, sure. Since you were talking about Ignition Press, I'm going to go with my pick from them from this past week. This is called Roots of Madness. This is written by Stephanie Williams, illustrated by Letizia Cadonici, colored by Alessandro Santoro, lettered by AndWorld Design. And we have assistant editing by Nora Ornstein, book design and logo by Scott Newman, and edited by Jamie S. Rich. So this is the kind of the thing with Ignition Press. You had mentioned some of the talented writers that they have with them: Cullen Bunn, Jeremy Hahn, Leah Williams, and Stephanie Williams. These are all pretty much, in some cases very seasoned creators, and some sort of new but a lot of exposure in the last few years, not only with the big two but with Image as well and other companies. And so Jamie S. Rich is a former editor. I believe he has worked for both DC, Marvel, maybe even Dark Horse. I can't if I'm getting that wrong, but again, he is, a very seasoned veteran editor, and this kind of is his baby, as from what I can tell. That he decided to branch out on his own and offer a very interesting lineup of sort of horror, sort of suspense, sort of other kind of stuff, things that are, definitely have one foot grounded in the real world, but you can tell it starts to, especially with this, it will dip its toe into a little bit of the supernatural, the esoteric. I believe you talked about Murder Podcast a couple weeks ago, which was again written by Jeremy Hahn, and so like I said, they got some really good stuff on the plate here. They have a really nice, just heavy cardstock. Nice glossy paper, but not too glossy where, the light hits it just right. There's also a really interesting thing on the back of their books. There's Unlock Your Story, ignitionpress.com. And then there's it's a little pressed in there. Each book has its own little 4-digit code there.
Cool.
I did go to the website to see what I could do with this code. I couldn't quite figure it out.
Okay.
But I thought that was really neat. Also, found it interesting that there really wasn't anything about this book on the website. They were plugging the other books that have come out and books that are coming out. There is a bio page for both the writer and the artist, which basically is also in the comic itself. So it gives you their credit. Stephanie Williams, has worked Nubia for DC, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur for Marvel. She's done some Alien stuff, My Little Pony. I mean, she's very diverse and versatile as a writer. Letizia Cadonici, as an artist, has worked on House of Slaughter, The Neighbors, Hello Darkness. She's currently working on Minor Arcana. So she does a lot of stuff with Boom Studios, though she will be working on a Department of Truth spinoff with James Tynion for Image. So again, these guys, these gals, they do good work. This is definitely a testament to this. What I found very fascinating and interesting about this were a couple of reasons. So So this is very much a personal story with universal elements. So this is definitely coming from a specific experience, but there are aspects of that, this sort of a generational aspect, uh, uh, mothers passing on knowledge to their daughters, daughters taking that knowledge and expanding and adding to sort of the book of life. There is a specific family book that basically is recipes for that is a center of this story. Recipes for straightening hair, chafed hands and skin, things that are very specific to the culture that she's writing about, but yet also for those who don't care in this world, especially in the world of this comic, that there's things that will also help them as well. So it's that there's a specificity to what's going on here, but again, like I said, there's some universal themes that are great. Yeah, I watched The Daily Show, and one of my favorite comedians who does a little opinion bit on there every now and then, Leslie Jones, used to be on Saturday Night Live. One of the four of the funniest women in the world who were in the worst movie ever made, Ghostbusters. It's so mind-boggling how that went wrong. But she was on I think a week or two ago, and she had this opinion piece, and she was sort of talking about, again, the backlash on woke culture, how words have also changed in a bit as far as what she's talking about. And she had a really good line. I'm going to butcher this as well, so I'm going to paraphrase as best I can. And I'm not going to do the voice as best as I can, but because her delivery is always great. But she basically says, exploring or the roots of slavery and the ramifications of slavery isn't woke. That is history. Turning Little Mermaid black is woke. But mermaids aren't real, so it shouldn't matter, right? So what I loved about this is that this is a little bit of history, but it is very fictionalized. It is dealing with a fictional family, but it is also, like I said, it could be considered woke because it is exploring how people have been treated, how marginalized citizens have been treated over the years, but it's not oppressive to the narrative. It's just a thing. It's there. And I found that very refreshing. I didn't feel beaten over the head by anything. I felt like I was looking into a generational story that, again, is specific to a culture, but is also very universal in the themes that it's exploring. So what is it exploring? So basically it does begin in 1890. You have a young girl who, as I mentioned before, is learning very slowly with her mother on how to kind of pass along and expand on these family recipes for cures for ailments or for beauty and whatnot. And the girl is very over eager to the point where she makes a mistake and it actually winds up scarring her mildly, but it is in her memory and on her hand, right? And so her mother and father recognize her genius, but the mother is very concerned about her impatience. But they, as parents, do what they can to further her studies and her life. She actually does get to go to school, gets this chemistry degree, and then opens up a small apothecary, we'll call that, basically a little almost like a bootleg pharmacy, that people go to her for these salves and these cures and things like that. And again, you do see that there's the expected clientele, but then you have these people who are like, this is their last chance for hope. And so they go, even though they run risk of being ostracized by others in their community. So really fascinating, deep and heady stuff. underneath all of this, there is a very sort of supernatural element where a lot of this revolves around a story that has been passed down from generation to generation about this mythical plant that could heal people, but does also have a cost. And so this is her MacGuffin. This is her sort of glowy thing, right? This is sort of what she is trying to find. And she is given an opportunity by a mysterious ageless woman who just shows up and says, I knew your mother and your grandmother, your great grandmother. And this woman's is like 30 years old. Right. So you have that really cool element there. And, she says, I will give you the funding you need to achieve everything you want, including the secret of this plant that allegedly no longer exists, if it ever did. But here's this person saying that it did.
Right.
And so there's this really interesting, supernatural world lurking under the surface in this very real grounded story, and I really like that. And I think it's interesting with the other book that I chose that there is sort of a through line, a connection between these two very different stories. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that. Again, the book is Roots of Madness. Feels a bit important, but it is also entertaining. And that's what's really the most important thing, that if you want people to learn something, you got to entertain them.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, it is about specific culture, ideology, generational stuff, but it is done in such a way that it is very universal, because every mother or every parent wants to share with their child and hope that the child will build on the foundation that they've passed along. And I think that's such a great hook for a story. So yeah, give this one a shot. Really nice stuff.
You said when it took place. Did it say where?
It's interesting because they don't give you a specific state.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. They do. It is in Illinois, pre-Bronzeville, Chicago, Illinois in 1890. We jump ahead 15 years where most of the action takes place in 1905. So yeah, I guess we are in and around Chicago.
Okay.
My bad for missing that. Right on the very first page, right in the corner.
God, you suck at this. All right, guys, check that one out. All right, moving on. So my turn. Yeah, I did not even know this was a thing. Oh, what am I doing there? Not you. Me.
I am a thing, though.
Yes. Kill All Immortals. That has a 2. That is a number 2. This is the second part of this particular series. If you've not read this, pick it up. So this is from Dark Horse. Let me get the creative team out of the way. By the way, the creative team is the same as the first one, which I always like, because once you get the gang back together, they pretty much know what they're doing because they've done it before. It's written by Zach Kaplan, illustrated by Fico Ocio, colored by Thiago Rocha, and lettered by Hassan Otsmani El Ahu. I know I butchered all those names, but it's okay. They forgive me. Basically, what you have here is this is the daughter of a Viking. It's a Viking family that found this, I guess, alien tree thingy that landed sometime back that made them immortal. And being immortals, the father who led the family was able to lead the family through generations of building not just power, but wealth. Not just in one region, but worldwide. I mean, the grip is really worldwide. And in the first story, spoilers are, you have the daughter pretty much wanting for things to be normal, and a whole bunch of things ensue. And basically, at the very end of that first volume, you have the big climax that ends not very well for the family. I'm not going to give it away. Do you need to read the first volume in order to get this one? You do not. This is a continuation of that volume, but it kind of it does a really good job of recapping it in the very beginning about how things ended. I'm not going to show you that picture because that's spoilers. But the tone of the book, the color of the book is just really awesome. I mean, the art is, I think what sets it apart is the coloring in this book. Like, I think the colors that they use, the palette, when they're in certain situations, you know what mood to feel in. The art is fantastic. You have Viking tattoos that are all over the sister and the brothers and stuff like that. One of them is even called Thor, so you know they're a true Viking. And basically now what you have is this continuation of the story where this family is now, used to being sort of like in power, the hunters, and now being hunted because of what happened in the previous iteration of the story. Really, really cool continuation. Didn't know it was coming out, so it's a plus because the first part of this story was actually pretty good, and the continuation of it, and sort of like the cliffhanger at the end of this first issue, fantastic. I believe they're 5-issue, 6-issue minis. If they're doing it, I think they're taking a page out of Mark Millar's book, where he does like 6 issues of a particular story, drops it, and then if he continues it, it just becomes another volume within that. I think the latest thing that he's doing like that is the Magic Order. I think it's already up to like Magic Order 3 or 4 of 6 issues each off of that. So this would be taking sort of a similar page out of that book, where we have the first 6 issues in the can, and now the second part of the story is Kill Immortal 2. Pretty good. If you like Viking stuff, there's not a lot of the culture stuff in it per se, other than the fact that they are Vikings. That's pretty much it. And they have some really cool art and graphics from some Celtic stuff, actually Viking stuff, as far as the tattoos and stuff are concerned. But yeah, I mean, the writing on it's really, the pacing it is great. The writing just moves you along really, really well. This is a creative team that was brought together that they did a really well job. So yeah, check it out. Kill All Immortals from Dark Horse Comics. I like it. I'm going to continue with it. All right, you're up.
All right. So this is from Boom Studios. It is the last day of H.P. Lovecraft. This is written by Romuald Jalivo, illustrated by Jacob Rebelka, English translation by Mercedes Guillaume, and there is an adaptation of a letter from H.P. Lovecraft to Robert E. Howard. I'll get to that in a second. So he did credit to Ed Dukeshire for adapting that letter, and I'll show you what that means. Designer Mitty Paul, edited by John Moisen. So if you are not familiar with author H.P. Lovecraft, you are certainly familiar with a lot of his concepts. His concepts have sort of, in a lot of ways, eclipsed himself in the general populace, general consensus, very much in the way that his friend and contemporary Robert E. Howard's biggest creation, Conan the Barbarian, has sort of, in the people who are not steeped in this stuff, know Conan, but know the guy who created Conan. Don't even know Conan was created in the early 1930s, right? So it's really interesting how these ideas come into the zeitgeist and in a lot of ways eclipse their creators. So H.P. Lovecraft, one of his notable things that he wrote about that has eclipsed himself are these eldritch gods. I think a lot of people would know the term Cthulhu or the name Cthulhu more than H.P. Lovecraft. But H.P. Lovecraft pretty much, he didn't necessarily create the concept of these eldritch gods. I think he was pulling from a lot of mythological and religious sources and things that had already been out there. He just sort of coalesced them, gave some of them names, and really brought about a popularity of this. H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard never met, but they were friends through letter correspondence. And one of the very interesting things about them is that they sort of did early crossovers before crossovers were a thing. So H.P. Lovecraft would write about a creature, and Robert E. Howard would love that creature and be like, "Hey, H.P., can I use that creature in a Conan story?" And H.P.'s like, "Yeah, go right ahead." So then Conan would fight a very similar or same monster, and vice versa. So I love that these two gentlemen, one in New England and one in Texas, were corresponding through letters and then connecting their stories. I thought that was very cool.
That's funny. That's cool.
Unfortunately, both of these creative geniuses died at very young ages, and Robert E. Howard committed suicide in his early to mid-30s, and just a few years later, or actually about a year or two later, H.P. Lovecraft died, and this is where we find him on his last day at a hospital in Rhode Island, riddled with cancer and morphine. The morphine is really the only thing keeping him sane, comfortable, and again, credit to Jacob Rebelka. A lot of people have worked on H.P. Lovecraft material, both in comics and movies, but with this guy definitely gets it. I mean,
No, it's pretty cool.
Terrifying mindscape that he finds himself in. And so basically the first part of this first issue, you have they're giving you the background, who H.P. Lovecraft is via the doctor and the attending nurse, and that this man is going to die alone in this hospital is where we are at. And the doctor is looking through, his suitcase of his few belongings that he has with him, including a copy of like Weird Tales with Conan in it. And he's like, yeah, when he dies, just throw all this stuff in the bin. Nobody cares about this stuff except these guys who are writing and reading this stuff. So it's really interesting to see like the place that he, this revered writer, in present day, who at the time, he wasn't revered. He was a nothing to a lot of people, which, again, is very stark and sad, but really is a part of this narrative. So he is, so what's really interesting is that there's a man waiting for him in the waiting room. And this man is named Randall Carter. And again, if you know H.P. Lovecraft work, Randall Carter was H.P. Lovecraft in his own stories. So, and this man looks very similar to H.P. Lovecraft, who's lying in a hospital bed. But this man also has items from the future, right? Because we're in 1937. This man has, a Kindle and an iPad and things like that. Like he's able to pull out things, that are anachronistic to that time period, and is sort of this source of mystery for this story. And so basically, what you have is a man about to die speaking with his own creation, who seems to exist in this world, but has also been all over the place, the past, the present, the future, and even to these realms that H.P. Lovecraft has written about. And so we're sort of left with this this mystery of exactly the nature of this man and exactly why he is there, except for the fact to show him pictures of the planet Pluto that are exactly how H.P. Lovecraft described it. But H.P. Lovecraft just described cities of, that had been on Pluto where these eldritch gods and old civilizations lived. And even H.P. Lovecraft, when he's confronted with these pictures that are from the future, he's like, no, there's nothing on Pluto. I made all that stuff up. And this guy's like, did you? So it really opens up some really interesting concepts and some really interesting ideas. This idea of what is real and what is unreal, and this first, not really spoiling too much because there's some more of this last day to go, but this does end with a letter that H.P. Lovecraft is writing to Robert E. Howard on his deathbed, even though Robert E. Howard had already died over a year before, which he acknowledges. And it's a really interesting thing to end this first issue on, because here he is writing to his friend who he's never met, saying, I'm going to be meeting you soon, but we're going to be, other place with this. And this is what's going on right now before I'm dying. And so it's really interesting. Again, this sort of supernatural world that is shown, that H.P. Lovecraft wrote about and is part of his mindscape as he's dying, I find very similar to Roots of Madness, and how that mystical world with the flower I was talking about before is portrayed. And instead of a lot of deep reds and blacks, it's a lot of lush greens and purples. So it's really, that's why I said these two were sort of companion pieces to a degree, because it feels like in both there are these supernatural worlds at play, and one in Roots of Madness offers a benevolent cure for ailments with a price to pay, whereas the horrific madness that exists in the mind of H.P. Lovecraft will offer him some solace and relief at when he dies. So I found the juxtaposition between the two very interesting and very fascinating. Those were the two I picked. They came out in the same week. Knowing what we know about H.P. Lovecraft, you probably wouldn't be appreciative of that comparison. But again, is very fascinating. I found it very fascinating, and I thought this book was also really good, really worth it. Good time of year for this kind of spooky, dark kind of stuff. So yeah, give this one a shot, especially if you want to learn more about a writer that you might not know a lot about in a very interesting fictional setting.
Nice. All right, there you go, guys. Last Day of H.P. Lovecraft from Boom Studios. Check it out. All right, mine. I have another one. All right, so this one is pretty cool. This one is called Savager, and it's from a new imprint called Panic Comics or Panic Entertainment, is what they're known online. And they're actually sub-distributed through Massive Indies or Massive Comics, if you know them, when you're going to through Lunar distribution. If you go to their catalogs, you'll see them under the Massive Indies imprint, which is what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, where Lunar was taking on a bunch of bigger name publishers to distribute, and a lot of smaller ones, newer ones, were getting left at the wayside after this whole breakup with Diamond. And so Massive, I think who else did it as well? I'm trying to think of anybody else that sub-distributes, but Massive was one of the publishers that took in a bunch of, I think they're at 4 or 5, and Panic is one of them, smaller publishers that they sub-distribute through in that regard. So you'll find them under the Massive imprint, under their own imprint though. Which is pretty cool. And then I went to their website because I think almost everything that they have right now is horror based. And so on their website, they're horror based and dark sci-fi is their genre. And it's been a while since we've seen an imprint that has just narrowed their genre down to just like 1 or 2 themes. But they got a bunch of stuff coming out. And if you love horror, you've definitely got to check them out because they've got a lot of stuff that's coming your way, which is pretty cool. This one, Savager, the creative team on this is Dirk Blackman and Shannon Eric Denton are the writers. Artist is Kubert Ball. Colorist is Shimries Ball. And then letters by Sal Cipriano. Really cool. Right off the bat, I'm just going to say. So, we've done 1,000 post-apocalyptic, Earth has ended stories. And when you look at that, or when you see a trope over and over and over, you're looking for something that's a little bit different, something that's a little bit similar, and where the twists come in. One of the things I have to say is that this book is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful to look at. And there was something before that I wanted to show. I'm not a big horror person, but when stuff is just really like, look at this guy's back and spine just coming apart. It's unbelievable. And then I'm going to spoil it because it's just too good. Do you remember that movie Slither?
Yeah.
That was, what's his face's first movie that
James
he directed?
Gunn's first directing effort.
Yes. Yeah. So check this guy out.
Nice.
It has to be inspired by him because that guy is just massively just like that guy at the very end of Slither. Just really drawn really well. The color palette, it's really great. So basically what you have is an alien invasion. These portals opened up and all these spores just fell to Earth. And they're parasites, so they need a host. So they take over anything living, whether they were human, animals, or whatever. And then sort of like made them zombie-like and just started to consume everything in their path. And what do they consume? As much protein as they can. So now we're well into the future of what's happened. Obviously, the Earth is lost. We're 100 years after the invasion, and food is scarce, and 0 to none humans are around. They're pretty much eradicated. They either turn into these, parasite zombie thingies, or they've been eaten and used up. And so you have this one guy. I forgot. I don't know if he ever mentioned his name. That's a good question. I don't remember him having a name. But he's roaming the earth and has a parasite attached to him. But the parasite doesn't have him as a zombie. It just has them as a host, and they communicate through a telepathic link. So the parasite actually talks to him, and what the parasite is helping him do is hunt down these alpha parasites to get rid of them. So the parasite actually wants to get rid of the parasites that invaded the earth, and he wants to be able to do the same as well. So there's something with this parasite in his past that he's like, F my race. These guys just, did something to me that allowed me to attach myself to this human. And we have one common goal, which is to get rid of these parasites so they can get rid of them of the earth. And up to this point, no humans exist. So basically when they find, and when I say zombies, they're not mindless. They can still talk. They have their faculties and stuff about them. And so when they hunt down these other parasites that are around them, they're trying to get information for a particular parasite that's within this vicinity. And it almost kind of reminded me of like Venom, like how that Venom, each Venom knows their host, but they also know the planet where they're from. Like it's sort of like a hive mind kind of thing. So they all know one each other. And so this one pretty much knows the one at the very end. It looks like the guy from Slither. And then we see them making plans to be able to go after this guy and vice versa off of that. But then we get the tipping point at the very end. And we actually find our first human. No interaction. It just ends with, holy shit, that's a human kind of thing. And he hasn't seen one in decades, which is pretty interesting because the parasite has him living for a long time as well. So really interesting. It took this, post-apocalyptic trope. We've seen the parasite thing done 1,000 times, and it's given a little bit of more depth to it in regards to the story that they're telling. Like it. Art is fantastic. Writing is really good. Art is really great. The pace in it is just, wonderful. The only qualm that I had about it took me like 30 seconds to really think about it, was the $5.99 price point. However, you do get 40 pages. So you've got a really hefty beginning to a story, and I'm glad they did it. Listen, I will gladly pay $5.99 for 20 extra pages or 18 extra pages of storytelling that allows you to build a world that's brand new to me, that has some, depth to it, and, lets me know what type of world they're living in and stuff like that. And this was able to do that. I mean, even in this, it's pretty cool. So you have like in the middle, you have like this timeline of things happening throughout events. So from 2034 to 2041 to 2059. So you get a sense of how long this guy has been living and walking around and hunting down these parasites. And it's cool because he'll like burst into their chest, so you can kill the host, but the parasite will keep the host moving as long as the host can move or whatever it is. You need to actually kill the parasite, or else it's just going to jump into or try to jump into something else or jump into you. And so it's pretty cool. What he does is he finds the parasite, and it's different for everything. So like in the beginning, he shot down this freaking huge elephant, and he just kept shooting like holes into the elephant. And the parasite was speaking to him telepathically, letting him know where exactly to shoot so that he can kill the parasite. And then he goes and he puts his arm into the freaking belly of the elephant, pulls out the parasite that's screeching, and then he just squishes it in his hand so that he finally kills it. It's a cool concept. I like that. It's been a while. I mean, the last one that we read that was post-apocalyptic that I can remember, I'm just trying to think. I didn't get that far into it, but it was the where are they now? What was it called? I can't remember. There was a couple of good ones, but it's been a while since I've there was Post Americana, which was great. That finished off really well. So yeah, it was good to and with a new imprint, you always want to cheer them on and be like, yeah, I kind of like this. So it's 4 issues, which is cool. That's another thing they got. I mean, it's a 4-issue miniseries. So if you guys want to check out some good post-apocalyptic horror stuff, it's that month. Check out Savager from Panic Comics. You will not be disappointed. And why not? I think that's all we have, right?
Yeah.
That's all you had. Yeah.
all
All
I
right,
have.
kiddies. That's all we have for you this week. You got 4, really great books. Check them out. You got Kill All Immortals from Dark Horse Comics, Savager from Panic, Last Day of H.P. Lovecraft from Boom, and Root of Madness from Ignition Press. I'm really liking that we're starting to see more publishers that we haven't seen before that are starting to come up, that are making a little bit of noise. So I'm hoping they stick around and do stuff that we can actually review. Definitely look out for some Kickstarter stuff that I'm going to be looking at for next week. And then look out for those guys that we spoke about. We got Dennis Robinson coming on in a couple of weeks. And then we've got Benjamin Dean just before that. So it should be pretty cool. All right, kiddies, that's all that we have for you this week. So if you like what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast. Feel free to share with anybody you like. We'll be here every Monday. If you are a creator, want to come on to the podcast to promote yourself and or a project that you got coming up, just go to indiecreatorcomics.com. Click on the podcast form tab, fill it out. John and I would love to have you on to speak about you and or your project. Last but not least, support your local comic book shops, because without them, we would not be here every week doing what we love to do. John, where do you get your books from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And at The Joker's Child, we strive to really get people what they want, whether it's new books or old books. If you're not seeing it on the sales floor, don't be shy. Don't be afraid to ask us if we could track it down for you. And if we don't have it in our warehouse, you bet we're going to try and find it elsewhere, because we love to get people the comics that they want in their comic reading hands, behind their or in front of their comic reading eyes. So you could definitely get that kind of service not only at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, but hopefully at your local comic shop. So if you can't get to Fair Lawn, New Jersey and The Joker's Child, be sure to patronize your local comic shop. I'm sure Google can help you find out where they are if you don't know already.
Oh, googly. All right, kiddies, until next week, make sure you read something indie made and booyah.